Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Gnostic Media's UnSpun, episode number 75. I'm joined today with Stefan Verstappen. He joined me, it must have been about 3 years ago. Steve and I did a few episodes together. We did 2 episodes on the Gnostic Media podcast, as well as we did one on the old RBN show a while back. And I had posted a thread the other day that I had done a few shows with Stefan, and the idea came up, and actually Stefan had chimed into the thread, and hey, we need something about how to identify people who are not psychopaths. So, Stefan, welcome back to the show. It's good to have you, and you're a popular guest. Thanks for all your work on exposing psychopaths, by the way.
Well, thanks, Jan, for having me back, I think.
Yeah, we're sitting here. We're not quite, wow. Something's shaking going by.
Talking points. We don't have...
Yeah, well, we're gonna have to figure it out, and so the idea was that just how do we identify people who are not psychopaths? How do we identify good people? And we focused so much on the negative, exposing bad people. So it's like, how do we tell if someone is honest, decent, and self-aware, as you put it? And and you had mentioned a chance meeting you had with somebody in the park late at night, of all places, and you were talking about how
Now, if I lived in San Francisco, that would take on a whole different.
This woman was, like, not a psychopath. So, and it was just a chance meeting. So, anyway, that's pretty funny.
No, because I'll tell you a story. I do sit in the park every night, and a couple of times I've had these guys kind of like walking around. And I'm going, oh, they're looking suspicious. What are they? It's dark. It's late. I'm the only one that's out late at night. And then a couple of times they would come up and they go, "Are you cruising?" I said, "I'm an old man, for Christ's sake. Get the hell out of here. What the hell are you doing out in the park?" But no, that stuff happens. But anyways, This wasn't one of those cases, no.
All right. So, so how do we, you've done so much on the concept of, or on psychopaths and how to deal with them, how to protect yourself from them, how to identify them at all. So, all right. So, what is the first thing? I mean, this is a really strange question because we're always so focused on identifying the bad folks. How do we go about identifying the good ones?
Yeah, so I'm thinking of how to present this as a story. So, and let me recount the incident that happened. So, as everyone knows, anyone that knows me knows that I go out every night to the lake, and I sit by the lake for an hour and I have a couple of beers and I contemplate life. It's the only thing that keeps me sane because, as you know, Jan, we are slaves in a lunatic asylum. I mean, this is a reality. It's not, oh, well, we're just talking metaphorically. No, we are slaves, and we are in a society that's absolutely insane. And to fully appreciate that is enough to drive most people to the brink of madness, myself included. So the way I combat not going insane is I have to go out and go into the woods and just decompress and chill and talk to the animals, that kind of thing. Now, in the hundreds of years that I've been doing this, and the thousands, tens of thousands of times I've been out, I have never seen anybody out there other than me. I mean, what I do is I go out, and oftentimes I follow the advice of Confucius, who wrote of his 5 favorite things to do in life. I think number 5 was dance with the sword in the moonlight. So Confucius was a pretty, a pretty tough good dude, and I like that thought, and I have done that ever since I read about it when I was 18. And so every full moon, I'm out in the woods. I got my sword, and I'm going through my sword kata. It's very, very spiritual and refreshing. You see it in those kung fu movies all the time. The hero is out in the woods practicing, and
Right,
there's
right.
nobody around, and he's perfecting his skills. And I actually do that. I watched all those movies when I was 12 and 13, and I sort of absorbed it. So I do that, and I never see anybody out there. Now, the other night, I'm sitting by the lake, and a woman walks past me. Now, the first thing I notice, and this is the first thing I think you can, take with you on how to identify non-psychopaths. And when I say non-psychopaths, what I'm really talking about is exceptional people, because I think you either have the psychopaths, you have exceptional people, and then you have everybody else, and they're either users or losers. I hate to say it, but that's the way it is. They're vampires or they're zombies, and that makes up 80%. I sit out there day after day.
At least, yeah.
At least, right? They're either brain dead, or there's some scheming little prick that's a wannabe psychopath, or they're the full-blown psychopath. So let's say the full-blown, the 10%. Let's not talk about them tonight. We've already talked about them. Now, the rest of the population, the other 80%, is they're programmed, right? They don't have a high IQ or too much fluoride in the water. There's something wrong with them. They're weak-willed. They can't face reality, and so they're programmed. Now, we can look at this as the Matrix. They're in the Matrix.
Sure.
Now,
and half of them that think they're out of the Matrix are actually in it as well. 99% of them.
Yeah.
The ones who really think they're aware and awake and all they're the worst off.
Yeah. Because they're deluding themselves, and unless you're always trying to seek a way to learn more and to
improve, to better yourself, to always learn more, to always find out more, and figure out what the F is going on while we're here.
Right, and
what is this rat mess we're in?
Exactly, and people that think they already know the answer, they're not looking for any more answers, right? Because they already know it. It's like, okay, you know everything. Good luck with that. Have a nice life. Because I have no use for people like that either. So, but the default programming, maybe it was different hundreds of years ago, or early pioneer communities. You could have a whole bunch of stupid people, and they would be okay. They're nice. They were brought up in church. They're not, stabbing each other in the back, and they're cooperating. They raise good families. They're happy. They have good lives. There's nothing. You don't have to be intelligent to, be a good person, but it helps. But that is all gone. The default programming in the Matrix is pathological narcissism. So anybody that's in this illusion of the kind of society that we live in, and the more they believe in the illusion of the society that we live in, the more narcissistic and psychopathic they'll be. Because remember, we talked before about secondary psychopaths.
Pseudo psychopaths, exactly.
Right, you call them pseudo-psychopaths, and I think I used the term secondary psychopaths, which I read somewhere, but I can't remember the reference. And these are people that are not born with that psychopathic gene. They're not born evil like some,
They actually have empathy and emotion, and they can feel this stuff, but they're encouraged by primary psychopaths to shut it off, or to ignore it, or to man up, or to whatever.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. So the tragic thing is, even though they're not born psychopaths and they're only secondary psychopaths, they're still psychopaths. They still cause a lot of misery in the world. So that's the default program. It's secondary psychopathy, or psychopathy, or secondary narcissism. And everybody's got that. So
and they're caught up, and and what I notice, one thing that I notice about this behavior of the secondary psychopath is that they seem to justify everything with a constant lying, and it's not intentional. They're not even aware of it, right?
Mhm.
It's they think with fallacies, they speak with fallacies. Their whole thing, their whole persona is based around fallacies. And just something that I commonly deal with is like this idea of the bliss bunny, these positive thinkers, right? And one thing that you notice when interacting with these people is that the first thing they do is whenever you present anything, they judge it without looking at it. And this is, some of them, obviously not all, but it's a process of judging information without looking at it. And all you're going to do is categorize it as positive or negative. If it sounds good and goes along with your bliss bunny positive thinking mentality, it's good and you accept it without verifying it, but you just take it as true. And if it's negative, or if it protects your family, or if it exposes psychopaths or something, it's taken as negative and then pushed away or ignored.
It's not acknowledged.
And not acknowledged or ignored, which then in fact brings the level of more ignorance, or higher ignorance into the world, so that we have even more ignorance to have to deal with out there. Because of course awareness, what was it? I don't know if it's true or not, but the Buddha was claimed to have said that something to the effect of, if only one remains ignorant amongst us, they bring the whole of the world down with them.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I don't know who said that, but I agree with the concept, actually, because I did make some quick notes trying to figure out what the hell we're going to talk about. And one of the notes I made is that you cannot be a good person if you're not aware. I just, because otherwise you're a machine, like an aware person who is self-aware. They're the only people that are capable of being really, first of all, exceptional. And again, we're talking about exceptional people, and also truly good. Because, if you're, and then the other thing you said too about the lie, that's again one of the notes. We're on the same path here, Jan. Because one of the notes I made was, the more lies people have bought into, the more psychopathic they're going to be, because the lies are a creation of this whole psychopathic paradigm. It's part of the whole secondary, pseudo-psychopathic programming, is just all this lies and lies. And these people buy into it. And so they're lying. And like you said, they don't know they're lying because they bought the lies and they like the lies. This is the weird thing,
The lies make it feel comfortable. And when people like us come along and we're like, that's a lie, and here's the truth, it's like, it's like we socked them in the face or something, right?
Yeah. And I also find that they have an aversion to any truth. So
right.
Let's say
yes.
So they buy into some lie about statism, right? And then you point out that maybe, mass religions are flawed. Now they hate that. They don't like that. But you're not religious. Yeah, but, I've bought into the lie of the state. And if you're going to tell me truth about religion, then I might hear truth about the state, and then I don't want to hear it. And so they
all religion, that's why you see me say it, mysticism is the tool of tyrants. All religions are created by those who have against those who have not. Even the Eastern religions, it's like you look at the Hinduism, and the Brahma caste creates that, and you have Tibetan Buddhism and the Dalai Lama, who's been CIA since the 1950s, and you got all of the pedophilia going on. Well, they're, all of this, don't do harm and love everyone stuff is going on, right?
Yeah.
And, but, so...
ironically, I'm going to interrupt your chain of thought, but ironically, I just came out with an audio version of that chapter from the book that deals exactly with what you're talking about. I'd say the same thing, that it's called A Time to Kill, and real warriors must at some point in their life be prepared to kill. And and then I go into about how religion is always very pacifistic and non-violent, and all spiritual paths are non-violent, and that's all just a construct. It's meant to keep people enslaved. It's meant to support the state and the power structure and the tyranny, and that no religion lasts for very long that hasn't made a deal with the existing power structure. So exactly.
Well, and all of them are, it's any of them that were real. Like, for instance, a friend of mine is just publishing a book on how Christianity was originally an allegory about teaching natural law and how to live in natural law, and all of that was taken and spun into a religion, and the original meaning taken out. And he's been going through looking up every single word and checking all of these original meanings and finding out about that. And so it looks like the whole original religion, which was never nowhere in the Bible does it say even go to church or follow this religion, Christianity. In the Bible, Christians were mocked, and yet it's used for this religion, Christianity. But the idea or concepts of it underneath are apparently about natural law and, avoiding the psychopaths, exactly what we're talking about. But the psychopaths got a hold of that and spun it,
Sure, yeah. Which they do with everything that has any goodness in it.
Right, yeah. Exactly.
So the premise then is, for me, I really believe that you have to be self-aware to be good. And if you're going to be an exceptional person, and by exceptional I mean not a zombie and not a vampire and not a psychopath. So that leaves a very small percentage of people left in the world, but they're the exceptionals. And like Colin Wilson's book, The Outsider, this is the kind of people I'm sort of thinking about. These are the people that don't fit in, the famous Krishnamurti quotes. Anybody well-adjusted to a society is...
Well, and Krishnamurti was working with Huxley, and, I've shown Jiddu Krishnamurti to be tied with the intelligence community repeatedly.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh,
well,
yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Well, here, I'm just going to show it on the screen really quickly for the audience, but... he was tied in with Aldous Huxley and selling the idea for people that... he had this quote, knowledge helping man to ascend seems so utterly nonsense to me. So, in that sentence there, he's actually promoting ignorance. But I've seen it in a lot of his work, just promoting this idea of the non-thinking. And again, the concept of mysticism is the tool of tyrants. I guess he broke away from Theosophy or whatever group he was a part of before. But, he always seems to have been in there pushing that agenda for, one group or another.
Yeah. And, well, and the other thing is, they throw in enough truth. And that's the key to being a successful liar, is you give enough truth in what you're saying that people will pick up on that, and then they'll kind of overlook the other stuff. And
it's like I don't know if you've seen my article, my Spies in Academic Clothing. I go through and break down exactly how they do that.
Yeah, I listened to that. Who did you have on for that? Was that Michael? No.
No, that was an article I wrote, actually.
Oh, was it? Oh, I thought you were talking about that in one of the shows.
We did do a show on it as well, but yeah, it's a full, long article breaking down all of that.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to distract you there.
No, no problem. So, anyways, but I definitely believe that you have to be self-aware. If you're not self-aware, then you're a robot or a user. So we're looking at exceptional people, and we're trying to figure out which ones are exceptional, which ones are just one of the users and losers. So, returning to the story, for me as a martial arts instructor, and I'm sure the same goes through. Is true for dance instructors or yoga instructors or gymnastic instructors. I can tell from 50 yards away by a person's walk what kind of person that he or she is. It's just the body language, and I very seldom see anybody walking that you can tell they're integrated into their body, if you know what I mean. Because the body and mind should really move as one. And people that are kind of outside their body, they're a little bit, what was it? Alexander Lowen in his book, The Language of the Body, did studies about neurotics, and he found that when you treat neurotics using traditional psychological methods and psychoanalysis, or talk therapy and visualization, it really didn't help them that much. So he tried an experiment where he gave them leg exercises to develop their legs, because he noticed that the neurotics all tended to have like really skinny legs. And he helped to what we call the martial arts, ground them, right? Develop their leg strength, feel the contact of their body with the ground. And they discovered, and I don't know if this is true, these are, I've read it in books, and I wasn't there at the experiments, because nowadays everything can be faked and everything can be a lie. So you don't know for sure, but I have a hunch that it's not far off. But what he discovered, or said he discovered, was that as their leg strength increased and their ability to sense the ground, their neurosis started to fade away and improved. And I believe that because we have that in martial arts too. There's a grounding exercise where you feel your contact with the earth, and then you integrate your body into your mind. And now when you move, for example, people that do Tai Chi, you know what it's like. You do Tai Chi for an hour, and then after that, when you move normally, everything just flows. There's a grace. There's a compact of an economy of motion, you would say. And so, for me, I can tell a person by the way they move, and I really can't tell you exactly what I'm looking for when I see it, but I just know. And I can sit there in the park, and I have since ever, forever. And I watch lots of people walking by, and oh my God, it's sad to see how these people walk. Most of them have the damn iPhone in front of them, and then they got their head is sort of permanently, it's like forward on their shoulders, and they look like some sort of animated mechanical
They're looking
duck.
down at where the phone would usually be as they walk.
Exactly. Even if they don't have the damn phone, they're still like, got this head thing happening, and then the way their feet hit the ground, they're like ducks. Their feet paddle. When you walk, the feet roll. You're like a motion. But these people just paddle and shuffle, and most of them wear flip flops. Anybody who wears flip flops, they're an idiot. Never ever wear flip flops. Anyways, so when I first saw this woman walking down the pathway, I could tell right away she was integrated into her body. So that's one sign to look for in trying to find exceptional people. Are they in their bodies, or are they somewhere out in space? Because again, this they're sucked up inside their minds, and therefore they're not in contact with the world. And if you're not in contact with the world, you're not aware. And if you're not aware, then you're a robot again. You're one of the vampires or the zombies, mostly the zombies. So first thing I noticed was the body language. Then she walked past me. Now this is funny. She was aware, but she didn't see me. I always sit in the shadow, and the key to camouflage is to not move. Camouflage breaks down the minute you move, because our vision works that we see movement by occlusion. In other words, the things in the background are occluded by the object moving in front of your line of sight. But if you don't move, you could just be a shadow, and I would sit there, and I would dozens and hundreds of people would walk by me within 5 feet, never see me, and unless I moved, maybe I light up a cigarette, and then I would startle them. But anyway, she walked past me, so she didn't know I was there, and then she went about 20 feet away, and she started dancing. So that is, to me, the second sign of an exceptional person, because she was getting joy from being, if that makes sense. It's there's nobody around, there's no music, there's no dance floor, there's no spotlights, there's nothing. You just enjoy, you feel the joy of being alive, and you just want to dance. So I think that's another sign of exceptional people, that they are able to be in the moment and to derive joy just from existing and taking things in. What do you think?
Yeah, I could see that. As far as their integration with themselves, but then there would be another level of that interaction with the person to see where they're actually at mentally, or
Oh yeah.
because you might start speaking to her, and then suddenly she's a bliss bunny, and positive thinking, and
I know. I
right.
thought the same thing, because that was my next, thought while I was watching her was, oh my God, here we go again, like some crazy broad out in the park dancing around, But it was the awareness thing. I'd only seen it once before, and that was 3 years ago. There was this young girl I couldn't see because she was out in the bay. She was in the canoe, in a kayak, and she must have been, I'm guessing because I couldn't see her very close, about 16, 17 years old. And she was paddling around in the bay, in the lake, about 200 yards away from me. And then she stopped, put the paddle across the kayak, and just looked up and stared at the clouds and the trees. And she sat there and just floated for like an hour. Now, to me, that tells me she's aware. She's drinking in the world. I mean, she's not looking at the damn phone. She's not talking on the phone. She's not paddling or trying to get a workout. She is now stopped, and she's looking around, and she's soaking up life. This is because this technique goes back to, Gurdjieff, and with his present moment exercise, and the dervish, supposedly the dervish exercise of the zikr, and also the Zen writings mention something that might be the same thing when they're talking about zazen, being aware in the moment. And again, the awareness is key to finding exceptional people. They are aware of their environment, they are in tune with their environment, and they derive joy just from being. And so she was just floating there, and so that, and the same thing with this dancing girl. She was just dancing there. Now, the other thing we get to is she was alone, right? This was about 12:30, maybe 1 o'clock, on like a Tuesday night or something like that. There was nobody around. It was dark, and she's alone. Now, exceptional people don't mind being alone, and often will seek solitude. This is my thoughts on the subject. Psychopaths always need to be, and especially narcissists, need to be center of attention, right? They always need to be somewhere where they can feed off the psychic energy of people and try to get admiration. And, they don't do anything unless there's an audience. They're not going to be dancing unless there's an audience. They don't care about dance. They only care about dancing if there's an audience to appreciate them dancing. Same thing with, like music. They're not going to play the guitar because they like the sound of the guitar by themselves. No, they'll learn how to play guitar, but then they have to be on stage in order to play it so that they get the adoration and soak up the psychic energy from people around them. But to be able to do that without an audience, for no reason other than the pure joy of it, that to me says that they're self-aware and they're exceptional. The other thing is she's out in nature. Exceptional people crave nature. I know I do. I go crazy if I'm not outdoors at least a couple hours a day. And the reason for that is because this normal society we live in is toxic. The offices, the schools, the university campuses, our homes, our apartments, all of it, it's toxic. We're in these boxes. We spend 90% of our lives sitting in a goddamn box, whether the box is a car to drive you from the box to where you live to the box where you work, so you can drive to the box where you eat, so you can drive back to the box where you work, back to the box where you live. I mean, everybody is spending like 90% of their lives in the box. If you're aware and if you're an exceptional person and you don't want to be a robot, you crave freedom and freedom of movement and freedom of vision. Because the other thing is, our eyes atrophy because, everybody tends to be, short-sighted because we're always focusing on something that is less than 3 feet away. It's the computer screen 2 feet away. It's the TV. It's the phone. It's the, your eyes are only focusing this far away all the time. And when they do that, the muscles in the eyes deteriorate, and you are no longer able to see far distances. And the only way to combat that is to get out of the box and to look far away, look up into the clouds like that girl did floating in her kayak. She was just staring up at the clouds, and in the distant forests, and on the horizon. And this is so it's freeing you mentally, visually, but also the freedom of movement. And I think to be an exceptional person, you are adverse to all these robotic behaviors. It would drive you crazy. It will make you sick to always be trapped in some robotic routine, the 9 to 5 job, the boxes, the car, this and that. I mean, it's all just a routine. It's just you might as well be a machine. There's nothing to you, and the only time you escape that in this world, on this planet, is to get out into nature.
All right, so you observe these things in people. Now, what if a psychopath likes to dance out in the woods at night or something like that? I mean,
I don't believe it.
so
I
there.
don't believe they would.
Okay, but there are these physical attributes that we're looking for in these people. What would be the mental attributes? I mean, it's like sometimes people think they're nice, but we're trying to find real, genuine, awake people, and
Right.
a lot of people are awake in different degrees, right?
Yeah. Well, the reason I brought this stuff up first, because it's the same as in martial arts. We move from the outside to the inside. So if you're in combat, I'm looking at the guy, and I'm looking at the way he moves and the way he looks, and trying to judge his awareness. And these are things you can tell without having to interact with the person, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, a lot of times you can sense by somebody's gait or the way that their eyes are that they're, definitely a dark psychopath. But
Yeah.
even sometimes, those slip by.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, some of them are really clever at that. And they
Yeah,
can fake.
we're more talking about what the psychopaths are than how to identify those that aren't. We're still
Well,
going back to we're it's like we're caught in using the psychopath
was the
almost
contrast.
right, exactly.
Well, so I would say that the exceptional people are the ones that are in tune with their body, that are confident in the way they move, that they're integrated, that they're aware of their surroundings, that they're able to take joy in doing things for the sake of doing things, not for the sake of some sort of profit or some sort of emotional reward. They do things because that's what they enjoy doing, not because they're forced to do it or from some external reason. And they're people that would enjoy nature, and they're people that are not afraid to be alone. So those are all the external symptoms of somebody that I would consider to be exceptional.
All right,
Before,
what would you consider the internal?
well, again, I would say the amount or the degree that they buy into lies. Everybody, we've been lied to our whole lives.
Well, and then we have to distinguish again between secondary or pseudo psychopaths and then true psychopaths that are running the lies.
Yeah, sure. And again, I'm not talking about the true psychopaths that are running the lies, because we've talked about them. We're talking about the pseudo psychopaths, and but the more a person believes these lies, the more of a secondary psychopath they're going to be. So what I look for in a person is somebody that doesn't believe in too many lies. Now, we've all been suckered and in different development of awakening or progress. We will believe in certain things, and then we'll drop those beliefs later as we evolve. But the key difference in this with an exceptional person is that they're willing to examine new evidence. So the people that believe in a lie, and then you gently try to, and I never confront people directly on this stuff because you're going to spook them, but you gently kind of feel around, well, how much do they believe in that lie, and you offer maybe a slight different opinion about it, and then you got to judge how they react to this different opinion, right? If they're willing to say, oh, no, I hadn't thought about that before. That sounds interesting. Or if they say something like, well, yeah, it could be true, but I don't know 100%, because none of us know 100% anything. Nobody. We are limited.
There are processes to verify information on subjects, though.
I know, and we can go. I wouldn't know. We're not going to go into the trivium, but yeah, there are processes whereby you can, be 99% certain, but I'm talking about 100% certainty about everything. Like I have my own beliefs about things. For example, I believe every politician is a corrupt psychopath. Now, if, you were to send one to my house that would live with me for a year and I could observe them up close and discover they weren't a psychopath, well, that would be overwhelming evidence for me to conclude that maybe not all politicians are psychopaths. But up until that point, I'm 99% sure.
There might be a black goose somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If you're a reasonable person and if you're an aware person, then you always should leave some room for doubt. You cannot be, and even there has to be room for doubt. I mean, I don't like people that think they know it all. I really don't like those people. And in my experience, those people that think they know it and they think they know it really well are usually the ones that don't know anything, and you can't convince them otherwise. So, the crooning.
Well, the most common type that I get are those who. The most common type that I see are those who, you write an article and you've spent days, weeks, months researching a subject, and you write it out, and you go through all of the citations and the grammar and the information, and then they refuse to read it. They tell you that you're wrong, and then they demand that you listen to their feedback about your work that they refuse to read.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen that too. I got that a lot of times too. Like, you spend years writing a book, and somebody goes, "You're stupid. You're a douchebag." Oh, okay. Well, you caught me. Genius.
So, essentially, what we're looking at are people who are willing to consider information, consider that they might be wrong. What about people who are willing to admit that they're wrong and immediately change a behavior or a belief or whatever as soon as that new information proves that belief or behavior was wrong?
Well, if they're immediately willing to change their opinion based on your presentation of the evidence, then I don't trust that either. To me, that would again indicate a psychopath that is just trying to go along, play with the you.
What if they're actually checking the information though, and then deciding on it logically? Okay.
Yeah, like if you say, "Oh, Stefan, I just found out the moon is made of cheese," and I go, "Cheesy, Jan, I think you're right."
Well, I'm talking about a logical presentation of data and information. I'm not talking about an empty claim of the moon is cheese.
Right? Yeah. No, if it's a logical presentation, like. First of all, if you can find somebody that's willing to accept a logical presentation of information that they haven't heard before and might affect their opinion, you're already dealing with somebody that's pretty good, because most of these zombies, they won't even let you get two words out, because they don't want to hear it.
One thing I'm realizing, except for a couple of things, there's really. Is there any way to identify such people? Is there anything? Have we really come across any real way? I mean, some people might have some of these things intellectually. Some of them might have them physically out in the woods or something. But some of them may not have, have we come across anyone who has them all integrated?
Well, I think the girl I met the other day was like that. So anyways.
Now, did you end up speaking with this woman?
Oh, yeah. And we're now very good friends. And actually, tomorrow I'm taking her and her mother on a canoe trip. So,
okay.
So then I thought to myself, I should go and talk to her because this is so remarkable to see somebody doing this. Even if she is a psycho, some, what did you call it? Happy bunny.
Bliss bunny.
Bliss bunny. Right. Good term there. Even if she is some psycho bliss bunny, and I've met bliss bunnies, but they still don't do that. So, anyways, I thought I should go see her, but then I thought, it's 1 o'clock at night. I'm a strange guy. I'm going to approach this. I could tell she was a young woman, and so I said, no, I'm not going to approach her. But she walked past me, and then I thought, well, since she's right in front of me, I'll just say hello. And I started a conversation with her. And I told her that I thought it was very unusual for her to be dancing alone at night.
Just really quick to interrupt you, another one that somebody just mentioned that I had forgotten about for the term bliss bunny is snowflake.
Yeah, snowflake, yeah.
Right.
So now, exceptional people that are aware, empathic people that aren't psychopaths, they also have pretty good intuition. Now, I thought I was going to scare the shit out of her, but actually she just came and sat down. And so her intuition about me was good. I am a harmless person, but who would know that? Most people that are in their, that are stuck inside their head and that are, nervous and paranoid and in the matrix and, they're zombies. And then suddenly you speak to them out of the blue. All of them startle. I've done this before. I would sometimes, Gurdjieff used to call it rattling their cage kind of thing. And he recommended not to do, but every once in a while it's kind of tempting, They'd walk by me and I would say, yeah, there's fish in there. And they would suddenly, be startled, because I spoke to them, and she wasn't startled at all. So that's another one of the qualities is good intuition. You're able to read people. She had an intuitive sense that I was not a threat, which I'm not. But just about everybody else, if I were to say hello to them late at night in the dark like that, they would immediately panic. And I'm talking guys too, like I've seen this with like 5, college age buddies walking down and they're all full of themselves. And at the last minute, they'll see me. They'll go, what is that? What is that, a rock? And I'll go, no, it's a person. And they would just freak because they don't know this stuff. It's like, down in San Francisco, down Fisherman's Wharf, there was this busker, and his whole trick was he'd crouch down with some leaves in front of him, right? And then when people would walk by, he would jump out from behind the leaves. I mean, how could you not see this guy crouching there with a little branch in front of him? But they somehow thought he was a bush. Anyways, and he would jump out and scare them. So it was almost a little bit like that, sort of. But anyway, so intuition is good, and bravery. You got to be kind of a little bit brave too. Zombies can't be brave, and the vampires, they're brave only when they see fear in the eyes of their victims. But to be able to just sit down and start talking to me. Anyways, long story short, I offered to teach her Kung Fu because every Thursday night I teach in the park and it's free. Anybody can show up anytime and I'll teach them whatever they want. I told her I was going to teach her a nice form that's very ballet-like because we discussed kinesiology and kinesiatic intelligence. And anyways, and then we got into Fourth Way, and she just came back from India where she studied sacred dance at a Fourth Way school. So, I mean, we're clicking on all these different levels. But again, that shows you that she's doing things. I mean, it's somebody. I mean, she might not have any answers. I don't know what she found in India, but still, she made the effort to go there and look. It wasn't. And to me, when you're looking for exceptional people, these are people that do things with their lives. Now, they might not be successful. They might not, immediately attain enlightenment or whatever. They might be waylaid, but at least they're doing something, for Christ's sakes. Most of these other people, they just sit there and they don't do anything, and their lives are passing them by, and they got their fat butts in front of the TV or the computer, and, all their spiritual, development takes place through YouTube videos. True story. There was a guy that was watching me do Kung Fu when I was practicing down in the park, and he goes, "Oh, that's interesting. My son is learning. My son is learning the staff form." And I go, "Oh, really? Who's this teacher?" And he says, "Oh, he's learning it from his iPhone." Okay, that's what I mean. I mean, people think that they're watching movies and YouTube or they're on the computer or something. They think this is somehow they're actually doing something in life. No, you're not doing anything in life. You're staring at a goddamn screen full of lies, and you're imagining that these lies are real and it somehow has something to do with anything and has any goddamn importance in the world. So those kind of people, they're not aware. They're machines. They're robots. They're zombies. They will never be a good person.
So what about those who are listening to you right now to get information about how to spot people who aren't psychopaths?
Well, listen, you can get pointers, right? It's the old Zen saying, I can point to the moon, but I can't tell you what it is. The same thing. I mean, you can get pointers from people. When I teach martial arts, and my martial arts style is sort of like a little bit of spiritual development as well. And I always tell people, you have to make your own way. I can show you how to do the kicks and the punches. I can show you long fist or plum flower form. But then you adapt it to yourself and you practice it yourself and you enjoy it on your own, and then you do it. It's your style. It's not my style. It's not my philosophy. You integrate it into your person and exercise it, and then it's part of you. And so the same thing I would say, yeah, listen, it's like if I were to follow that logic, then don't read a book because you can't live life from reading a book. No, books can provide lots of useful information. I've read lots and lots of books myself, and a lot of it was very helpful in my development and in seeking the true path. But you have to actually do something. And exceptional people will be doing stuff. They will always be doing things. So anyways, it turned out later that, I canoe, she canoes, I bike, she bikes, I hike, she hikes, and I dance, she dance. And anyways, so we had a lot in common, and it was just, this has never happened to me. And again, before anybody thinks that because it's a woman no, it's got nothing to do with that. If it was a guy that I saw doing that, I would have said the same thing. If they had the same kind of awareness and the same kind of, search for the meaning of life, and a struggle to understand and effort to go out and experience the world and learn, I would be, singing his praises as well.
All right. So, in your opinion, we still haven't really gotten to the core of it yet, I don't think.
On how to tell somebody is a good person, a non-psychopath?
Well, We've talked about a lot of the physical attributes and things that you would see, like outdoors and stuff like that. But, I mean, is there any way, what's the fastest way that we could identify somebody in a short amount of time where, if it's a quick interaction or something like that, where we're not... We're not out in the park to see them or out in the forest. We're in town where, at the stoplight or getting your groceries or something like that,
You're not going to run into anybody in town, the chances are so slim, because again, the amount of people, exceptional people in the world is very few and far between. And,
So basically what we're looking for then is specifically exceptional people and not necessarily non-psychopaths.
Yeah, because if you're just a non-psychopath, then you probably fall into the categories of zombie or vampire,
which I guess is the pseudo-psychopath.
Yeah, the pseudo-psychopath. Because like a lot of these people that aren't aware and don't have all these qualities, yeah, they're okay, but they're still part of the Matrix. And in the Matrix, what the scene where he's looking at the pretty girl in the red dress, and then he turns around and she's the agent. Well, so long as they're in the Matrix, they can always be turned into the Matrix. I know people that they're nice because their religion tells them to be nice or behave a certain way, or their upbringing has brought them a certain way, but boy, they can switch in a moment,
Yeah. Well, let me tell you of an interesting story that happened recently. An old friend of mine calls me up and wants to come over and talk, and we ended up talking for several hours. And this person is telling me all of these things that they had come to realize, like over the last 6 or 8 months, and basically their life had turned to shit. They had a total bottom out. They lost their kid. They had gone to parties and taken psychedelic drugs and gotten into all of the MK Ultra stuff that I've exposed, and gotten caught up with a former cult leader, and who wrecked their lives, and but for years, this person thought I was kind of crazy about all of this stuff. Didn't really respect me when I was trying to inform them about this information, and to look out for these types and how you can spot them, etc. And so then, after the shit hit the fan and they bottomed out, then I get the phone call, hey, I'd like to come over and talk sometime. And so, they had realized that I had been trying to protect them the whole time, and they had actually, come full circle about it, and had a real awakening, and just totally calm and, aware. The whole persona had completely shifted. They were a totally new person. I don't think I'd ever seen anything that abrupt.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. That does happen. They break their programming a bit, right? Because again, like I said, the more lies they believe, the more resistant they are to any kind of truth. And so he was no doubt bought into all this nonsense, especially if he's I can't tell you how many former cult members I've run into. There's so many of these cults around, and they just destroy people's lives. These people spent decades dedicated to some psychopathic bastard that was screwing their wives, and taking Las Vegas vacations with the proceeds of the donations. It just goes on and on. I can't believe so many people, the people are looking for help. They're looking for, spiritual guidance, and they're just ripe pickings for all these psychopaths. But so he broke some of that lie, and then he realized, and this is why I still tell the truth too, because it does me no favors to go around telling people the truth. Yourself, right?
What's that George Carlin quote? Everybody appreciates the truth until you tell them the truth, and then you're an asshole.
Yeah. That's exactly it, So, how to win friends and influence people? Don't tell the truth.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so, you got to give them this padded sugar coating, and and most people don't appreciate being told the truth. Even though it might significantly help them about something.
Yeah.
They would rather hear lies and things that coincide with the current behavior or activity, rather than hearing the truth about it.
Exactly. And so the further
like Stefan, you need to stop smoking cigarettes.
I know. I know. It's a very unpleasant truth.
As he takes a puff. You have to stop lying to yourself about them. There you go.
Well, I read years ago that the great arahats, the ascended ones, would have to take on a certain vice in order to maintain grounded in this universe. So,
we were talking about this the other day, because it was Abraham Lincoln who came up with the famous quote, those who, roughly, not verbatim, those who have few vices have few virtues. But, if on the other hand, what if you've gone through life and you've realized your vices, and you realize, hey, you know what, I'm going to stop lying to myself about these things, and then stop doing that, so you become, you can become virtuous through the shedding of these vices, and, learning to walk without them, essentially, right?
Yeah.
So that could be another way that we, learn to spot, non-psychopaths.
Yeah. See, with me, if I were to quit smoking, then the next thing people expect is me to give up heroin, and I'm just not giving up heroin.
Right. Yeah. Well, heroin and alcohol, and then pretty soon, what are you going to be left doing? You're going to be like outside in the woods, like who knows what you'd be doing, right?
Nothing then. Nothing at all.
And we were having a discussion about this the other day in a thread on Facebook about quitting alcohol, and a lot of people were chiming in about the benefits that they were getting from that. And and I've been sort of going through a process over the last couple of months, weeks, etc., just cutting it down, getting rid of any leftover that was around the house and stuff like that, and just not bothering to replace it, right?
Right.
And and just like, okay, so what if I could increase my IQ 10 points just by cutting that out, and or what's how much more active could I be? How much more out in the forest and one with my body could I be if I get rid of these things that that have they're definitely no benefit to me, right?
I don't know. The number one killer is stress. It's the cause of heart disease. It's the cause of cancer. It's the cause of mental illness.
Well, a lot of it's actually caused by wheat and grains too, but fermenting in the body and wreaking havoc. And then, and that goes along with, not lying to yourself about, what you're putting into your body, which is your temple, and being aware of those things. But, it seems that there's, it seems almost, that we're almost better off still knowing and identifying and defending ourselves against what a psychopath is, and in the meantime hoping that we can find some non-psychopaths out there, right? It's like, well, I know that person is a psychopath, and eventually maybe you hope to run into one that doesn't qualify as a psychopath, that doesn't have the things as a psychopath, and then you can kind of go, maybe they have some of these other qualities.
Yeah. I see we're just about out of time. So I guess, if I can just sum it up, then I would say, then the key points would be, somebody that's, integrated with their body, that's comfortable, that enjoys nature, that doesn't mind being alone, that is intuitive and understands, has a sense of people, somebody that is actively seeking the truth in their life, by physically going out and looking for truth and doing things like taking yoga classes or dance classes, or but experiencing it, living it themselves. Somebody that enjoys, did I say nature? And solitude, somebody that can be alone, that doesn't always have to have people around them.
And that's another good one too. It's like, are you okay with being alone and not having to be the center of attention all the time, whether it's meditating or sitting reading books by yourself somewhere or whatever the case is?
Yeah. And somebody that does things for the sake of doing them rather than for a reward. And and that includes things like charity. Like I teach for free. People can drop by anytime. I don't expect anything. It's not the psychopathic, what we used to call feminine dominance, or passive aggressive behavior. Like, I'll be nice to you, but I expect a big return. I'll do you a favor, Jan, but I'm going to have to borrow your car for the weekend. That they're able to do something for others without expecting a return. That's also a pretty good sign that the person is not a psychopath, because psychopaths never do anything for anybody. Even when they do it, secretly they're, and the only way you can tell if they're expecting a return is to wait them out, So if they do something nice for you, okay, and then a month later, did they ask you for something? And if the answer is no, they're probably not a psychopath. They actually did something for you for the joy and sake of doing something for somebody else. Sure. And so those would be my key points right off the top of my head without preparing.
And I think maybe one thing we can add is, somebody who encourages rather than criticizes, when you do something for them and when you're trying to, you're trying to show effort and all of this stuff. They should encourage that and not talk you down. Stefan, very quickly, what is your website?
ChinaStrategies.com.
And ladies and gentlemen, thanks for listening. Please go to the Gnostic Media website, GnosticMedia.com. Please support the show. We can't do it without you. Stefan, good to have you back. See you around. And everyone, until next week, see you then. Take care.